Rev up your engines! Welcome to my Thursday video, where I answer one of you viewers' questions with an entire video. And today's question comes from Harry Lopez. What do you think about the older model Nissans before the Renault merger? Were they good cars, comparable to the Toyotas and Hondas of that time? Yes, Nissans were better made cars back then, up to the late 90s. Here's a history of the Nissan company to show you what happened. When I was a young mechanic, Nissan wasn't even called Nissan. It was called Datsun. It wasn't until 1984 that the company changed its name to Nissan. And hilariously enough, it cost the company $30 million to change all the signs on their dealerships from Datsun to Nissan. Now those early Datsuns, ooh-wee, they could last a long time. They had kind of two setups. The early ones, like the Datsun B210, they had tiny little engines. They didn't cost much, and they could last a really long time. Lots of my customers back then, hey, they had a Datsun B210 as the car they used in college. I had one customer that had 400,000 miles on one. They were little cars, but hey, they could run quite well if you didn't mind a little car. And fixing them was a simple, easy job. Even rebuilding the engine was pretty cheap. I had a customer with one, the whole engine was rebuilt for like 300 bucks, and then it ran like a clock. They were pretty dependable little cars. But if you know anything about Datsun and Nissan, whatever you want to call them, they started to get into speed. Their first real speed burner, the late 60s Skyline GTR. That was a little bitty car, but it put on 160 horsepower, which was a lot for a light little car. And that led to a whole range of Skylines. They even made station wagons. And if you know anything about drifting, hey, a lot of guys love those Skylines, turn them into drifter cars. They may be small, but they got a lot of power in them. You can also soup them up. They're a very popular car even today. And as far as I'm concerned, the first real big hit Nissan had was the 240Z. That was the first real Japanese mass-produced great sports car. Back in the 60s, sports cars were known as fun to drive, but they'd break all the time, they'd leak oil. Now with this Datsun 240Z, those things just could run forever with very little maintenance. And people who knew about sports cars were amazed, because they said, oh, here's a quick little car, it doesn't leak oil, starts every time, and gets pretty good gas mileage. And of course they kept perfecting them. Then they came out with the 260Zs, the 280Zs, the 300Zs. They were pretty good sports cars, there's no arguing that. They sold a lot of them. So Nissan, hey, they were the ones that really perfected a mass-produced sports car. Much like Honda, when they made just motorcycles, they perfected the four-cylinder motorcycle. Before, the Honda 750 made inroads as a speed burner that could run forever, always start, not leak oil. People thought of motorcycles as, yeah, they're fast, but they're noisy, and they leak oil, and they break all the time. Honda turned that on its head. They made a fast motorcycle that could last indefinitely with a little bit of care. So Nissan really started the Japanese mass-produced sports car market as far as I'm concerned. But alas, the company made various mistakes here and there as time went on. It was pretty much in the rumor mill that the company was up for sale. Ford was thinking about buying it, but Ford had some problems and their stock went down, and that deal fell through. But in 1999, Renault kind of merged with Nissan. They didn't buy them. It's kind of a merger that Renault owns 45% of Nissan or something, and Nissan owns a percentage of them. It's a really complicated deal. Basically, putting a French car company in the mix with a Japanese car company. Now, I know some people like French cars. I recently came from a trip to England, and a lot of people there drove French cars. They liked them. But in the United States, French cars have always been dismal failures. All the French manufacturers that tried to sell cars in the United States, they all pulled out. They had bad sales. People didn't know how to fix the cars. Parts were expensive and hard to get. As far as I'm concerned, Renault and Nissan, when they merged, not such a hot deal for Nissan, because before 1999, cars like the Nissan Altima, their little bitty Nissan Sentra, hey, those things were pretty solid build. They could last a long time. But in the 2000s, a lot of the Nissans started having problems with engines wearing out prematurely, and especially with bad automatic transmissions that would wear out and cost a fortune to repair. And heaven forbid you buy a late model Nissan with a CVT transmission. Those are gotta be the worst ones that are manufactured in the world as far as I can tell. They're always breaking in cars that my customers have. I get many times people come and they'll say, what's wrong with this Nissan? I'll say, well, your CVT transmission's going out. And some will say, well, you know, I already had it replaced once. Or they'll say, gee, I've only got 60,000 miles and the transmission's going out already. And that's the reason I tell people not to buy Nissans anymore. The quality just isn't what it used to be. It used to be really well-built cars that could last a long time. You get a little bit of Datsun B210, a Nissan Sentra, and yeah, they were small cars and they rode a little bit rough, but they were pretty zippy for a small car and could last a long time. And their sports cars back then were state-of-the-art. The ones today, I see many problems with their transmissions and their engines blowing head gaskets, and they have electrical problems, and even simple things like, I've had customers with them that the vehicles were like 2 years old and the mufflers rusted and fell off. Because look at my 25-year-old Toyota Celica. I still got the original muffler on it, and it doesn't leak and make noise. I mean, and they couldn't even make one that lasted 2 or 3 years before where they welded it together. It was cheaply welded and it rotted and fell off. And their general design seemed to get worse and worse. On a late model Altima, I had to change a blower motor. To change a blower motor on any of these Toyotas, normally I can do it in 15 minutes. It was a 6-hour job on that Altima because you had to take everything in the dash out to get to the blower motor instead of just having it in a nice place with 3 little screws you take out and pop the motor in and out. So yes, Nissan used to make really good cars, but after that merger with Renault, not so much. And since this is the Thursday segment where I answer a viewer's question, place your own question on the YouTube comments below, and I'll pick the best ones to make a single video to answer your questions. And where else can you find a guy with 50 years experience of fixing cars to answer your own question with a video? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.